Welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining here at Unapologetically Progressive. Once again, I am back with another video. This time we're going to discuss what's going on at the Supreme Court when it comes to the Obergefell decision. Now, of course, back in 2015, the Obergefell decision was made by the Supreme Court in Obergefell versus Hodges that paved the way for millions of gay and lesbian couples in America to have their marriages recognized federally and to be able to get married in any state that they may happen to live in. Now, of course, states like California had already, approved same-sex marriage and marriage equality and allowed gay and lesbian couples to get married, but they were not recognized federally. For taxes and things like that, different tax breaks you can get and things like that, they were not eligible for because they weren't legally, in the eyes of the federal government, married. And so over the last 10 years, you've had a lot of conservatives very angry about that because in the small-minded, small little worlds, they believe their religion tells them that that only a man and a woman can get married, and that there's no other option outside of that. That it has to be a man and a woman in a religious ceremony. But here's the news flash for those people, right? The fact is, people have been getting married in the United States for a very long time outside of religion. When you go down to the Justice of the Peace, for example, that's not going to a church or having a pastor marry you, right? You're not getting a preacher to marry you down there at the JOP. Now, that may be their other job, as I've seen happen, but that's not typically their job, right? Their job is not to give you a religious wedding. So the argument is lame, and it falls on deaf ears a lot of times since it holds no water. Because it doesn't make sense, because your religion doesn't get to tell what other people can't do. It tells you what you can't do. Now, if you remember back in 2015, too, there was a big brouhaha in Kentucky because of a city clerk or a county clerk in Kentucky who refused to give marriage licenses to a gay couple. She was jailed for 6 days and ended up, being fined a lot of money that she's still appealing to this day. Her name was Kim Davis. Now we'll get into who Kim Davis is in a little bit later in this video and what she's done in the past, but let's talk about what she's doing now. In her chase to, not have to pay this hundreds of thousands of dollars in fines and fees, she is suing to have that overturned. But what she's trying to get the Supreme Court to do, while she's doing this, is to overturn Obergefell versus Hodges and make it to where gay and lesbian couples cannot get married. The Supreme Court is set to take this up this fall, and we will know next summer, most likely, about their ruling. The problem is, this Supreme Court, as we know, is a kangaroo court, and they're going to rule in however Donald Trump has told them to rule. That's what's going to happen. Just like with abortion, things like that, they're in the pocket of the conservatives. They've been paid by conservatives, most of them. And many of them got a lot of money for working with Donald Trump. You also have Clarence Thomas, who has vowed to overturn Obergefell. If a case ever came before him, he said that he would vote to overturn. Also, other conservative justices have said the same. So as of next summer, most gay and lesbian couples probably will not be legally married in the eyes of the federal government. Because that's how the Supreme Court works. Now, I started to talk a little bit about Kim Davis. Now, Kim Davis, of course, she refused to give people their marriage license. She ended up losing her re-election campaign, and she's no longer the county clerk. But let's talk about Kim Davis a little bit and what happened prior to 2015. Kim Davis is a 4-time married person, divorced 3 times, married 4 times. Now, 2 of those marriages were to the same person. But there's been a lot of reports that indicate that she was committed adultery in her previous marriages. And she wants to talk about family values. Meanwhile, she was out there having an affair. Those are reports that I have read since 2015 in legitimate news sources like the New York Times and the Washington Post and things like that, right? So if that is true, then Kim Davis is a homewrecker, and Kim Davis doesn't get to lecture me, or anyone else for that matter, on morals or family values. Her claim is that, oh, well, in 2011, I became religious because a dying family member asked me to go to church. Well, bullshit. You don't get to absolve yourself of everything you've done in the past just because all of a sudden you found God. That's not how that works. Further, that's not how religion works. You see, your book and your God tell you what you can't do. It doesn't tell me what I can't do. It doesn't tell the millions of other people around this country who happen to be gay, lesbian, trans, or bi what they can or can't do. It tells you what you can and can't do. You see, the Christianity I grew up in, the pastors I grew up with, they taught love. They taught respect for other people. And they also taught me that my relationship with God or Jesus Christ is mine, my relationship. And I don't get to dictate to other people how their relationship with Jesus or God should be. Now, I am no longer a religious person, but I hold on to a few core values that I learned in Sunday school. Love for my neighbor, respect for others. But I also learned something else over my time as I've grown older. And it's to mind my own damn business. If you want to be religious, that's great. I think that's awesome for you. If that structure helps you out and brings you peace, then I'm all for it. What I'm not okay with, though, is you becoming religious and then trying to tell other people that they have to be religious just like you. I am so sick and tired of these fundamentalist Christians and fundamental other religions like Islam, things like that, that want to direct what I can do in my lifetime. You don't get to tell me what to do. So I tell you, for these conservative Christians that think that their religion gets to tell other people what they do, I'm assuming that means when they go on a diet, they think other people shouldn't be able to eat a donut. But that's what's going on at the Supreme Court right now. We knew this was coming. We knew over the last 10 years that sooner or later this would happen. We didn't figure it would be Kim Davis because she'd already been, completely kind of thrown out of the picture. But, like a zombie, she's back. And I think it's absolutely disgusting what she's trying to do. Because these people have created families. They have children, some of them. I have friends of mine who are gay, who are married, who are terrified that they're going to lose their legal status as a married couple. No. It's not going to ruin their relationship. They're still going to love each other. They're still going to be together. But the one thing I do know is it's going to hurt them. Because for the last 10 years, they've had the right to get married, like everybody else. And that's how it should be. Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, Democrats should have codified it into law. And how? Where? When could they have codified that into law since 2015? Since when have the Democrats had enough power in the Senate to override a veto? Not a veto, but to override a cloture vote and a filibuster? They haven't. you need 60 votes. And we typically have not had 60 votes. Now, I think Democrats need to do more, need to fight more and show people that, that it matters. But unfortunately, this is the place we find ourselves right now. Because so many people couldn't vote for a woman in 2024. Anyhow, I'll see you down the road.